This is why having insight into OCD is great, but it doesn't quite cut it. Because you can have an understanding of how it's operating, seeing what's going on, becoming very aware, and initially it does feel like a huge weight lifted off your shoulders, of course. But then just saying it's just OCD, yes, that's just OCD, okay, this one is an OCD thought, that one's not, isn't quite going to cut it. And it very, very quickly becomes reassurance and very compulsive. At times I used to say, well, this one's just OCD, I need to get certain, so this is an OCD thought, because then I had written down in my notes on my phone that this one's just OCD. This is just OCD, it's an event in the past, no, it's definitely OCD. How it's latched is definitely OCD. Doesn't cut it, because OCD cuts through that like a knife through butter. Because it's looking for that, hang on a minute, what if this one isn't OCD? What if this one's real? What if this one's different? Because OCD is always looking for, what if it isn't OCD, right? And it will convince you, and it feels utterly and totally convincing that this one isn't OCD. And that right there is exactly why just telling yourself this one's OCD isn't going to work. Okay, so insight and understanding of how it operates is very important. Yes, initially it was a huge weight off my shoulders once I saw what was going on. Once I could understand and relate to other people, I certainly felt less hopeless. I certainly felt more aware. I certainly had more understanding. But remember, insight is one thing, but changing our beliefs is a different thing altogether. It's a different ball game altogether. Okay? It's like, let's say you're trying to learn a language. You wouldn't just, okay, I can say I need to learn those words. I can say I need to be consistent, but then doing nothing about it. You ain't going to speak fluently, are you? Again, acceptance and unconditional acceptance and rational thinking and making peace of worst case scenario and working on life structure, doing all the tools and having all the ingredients in place to actually overcome OCD, that's what's going to get you to a better place and a place of recovery where there's no chronic anxiety, where there's no chronic guilt, the intrusive thoughts have lost their intrusiveness. That's how you're going to get to that place. Just saying, oh yeah, I know this is OCD, isn't quite going to get under that fully. Because when you look at all the things that can happen in life, right? Let's look at real events and false memories. Let's say, for example, I'm driving my car and I'm turning the radio, I'm changing the station, and let's say I knock someone over, right? Now that real event, that false memory could happen. Well, there's no false memory about it. That's a real event. That would actually happen, right? That could actually happen. Now, me telling myself it's just OCD, don't worry, it's just a thought, it's just OCD, isn't going to cut it at all, right? Let's say I'm diagnosed with cancer tomorrow. Me telling myself it's just OCD isn't going to cut it, right? It isn't going to work because, nope, you actually have cancer. Here's the diagnosis. Deal with that, right? Me sat in my hospital bed just saying it's just OCD isn't going to fix anything, right? So this is where that doesn't work. And this is why I advise, this is where it's very important to think, okay, even if it isn't OCD, how can I still accept myself, the other person, life, unconditionally? Because trying to work out whether it's OCD or not is a futile pursuit. It's an endless road. It's a dead end. Because, like I've already said, OCD will always convince you there isn't OCD, right? And real events do happen. There are genuine things that go wrong. There are adversities, there are problems, there are challenges, there are genuine hassles in life. So this is why the tools that we teach, the tools that you learn through rational thinking and the books on our reading list and the disputing work that you're doing is for anything that can go wrong in life, right? It's not just for OCD and that's it. Because this would mean, this book, for example, The Myth of Self-Esteem, the third book on our reading list, would be called The Myth of Self-Esteem, just for OCD sufferers, just for POCD, just for harm OCD, just for guilt-related themes, just for cheating OCD. No, it's Myth of Self-Esteem, and it's how rational emotive behaviour therapy can change your life forever, not just an OCD sufferer's life. It helps significantly, hence why it's the most important book that I've ever read, hence why it's the third book on our reading list, but it's not just read that and OCD's gone, because you're dealing with all kinds of problems in life. Life throws all kinds of problems your way. If you lose your job, then you can't just say, oh, it's just OCD, I'll do nothing about it, right? Well, no, because you have an actual real life problem, you have a real life situation that needs sorting out, that needs attention, that needs energy, that needs work, that needs effort. Just telling yourself or dismissing it as just OCD isn't going to fix the problem. There's no solution, okay? So instead you're thinking, right, I don't like the fact I've lost my job. Okay, how do I get a new job? How do I get a better paid job? Maybe I can look at a different career. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. So you're constantly trying to look to overcome the problem rather than just saying, oh, it's just OCD, don't worry about it. Right? And let's look at intrusive thoughts and that side of things. Because I used to say, it's just an OCD thought. It's just an OCD thought. It's just my OCD. It's not real. It's just an OCD thought. I don't want that thought. It's just OCD. Well, OCD will start laughing at that. It will make a mockery of that because it will say, no, hang on a minute. What is if you want that thought? What is if you intentionally thought that thought at that specific time? Especially around thoughts during intimacy, especially around thoughts during all kinds of unwanted times, right? By saying, oh, it's just OCD, doesn't cut it. Because I was convinced that it wasn't OCD and also that I wanted the thought. That I deliberately thought that, I thought it on purpose, that I enjoyed the thought, that I liked the thought, that I wanted the thought, and so on. So this is why we have to go towards, okay, let's say I wanted the thought. Let's say I deliberately had this thought and intentionally thought this thing. How could I still accept myself unconditionally? How could I still be at peace with that? How can I still change my relationship with those thoughts? I might not like the thoughts, but how can I bring down the catastrophization? How can I bring down the internal exaggeration and jump into the irrational conclusion that, oh my God, this means I'm a terrible person. Oh my God, it means I'm horrendous. It means I should be punished forever. It means I should be not ever let off the hook. Can't ever feel peace. Can't ever feel happy. Can't ever feel enjoyment. I deserve to be punished and feel guilty and so on. Right, so changing the relationship with the thought, but breaking down even if you did want the thoughts. And that's not saying you do want the thoughts, it's saying even if you did, because OCD will convince you that you do anyway, right? Yet again, an example where thoughts are thoughts and saying it's just OCD, where having just insight and having an understanding and awareness of OCD is great, but it doesn't quite cut it, and it very, very quickly becomes reassurance and it becomes compulsive. I hear many times in this job, coaching people say, Sam, I'm now aware it's just OCD. It's great, I can see how it operates. When I first came in, I didn't know what was going on. I can see it's just OCD. Great. I say, yes, and that's great. Insight and explanation of what's going on, awesome. But that ain't going to cut it, because OCD is scanning for that thing that feels like it isn't OCD, that this one feels real. That one's OCD, but this one's real. Okay? So initially, when you first come in, when I go back to 2018, when I was really stuck, getting bombarded and peppered by intrusive thoughts all day long, at any time, at any place, especially during unwanted times, when I first discovered what was going on, when I first found, oh shit, this is probably OCD. Yes, the symptoms here. Yes, I can tick that. Yeah, that's me, right? But that wasn't enough, because all we would do here is just tell you it's just your OCD, move on. But that isn't going to cut it. Isn't going to cut it at all. You have a doubting disorder. It's going to even doubt that it's OCD. It's going to say, no, this one's real. This one isn't OCD, right? Hence why we hammer home. Hence why we emphasize the importance of acceptance, even if it wasn't OCD. Unconditional acceptance. That's what gets under it. Belief work. How you view it. Your current philosophy. Your perception on the worst case scenario. Okay? Remember, OCD is always going after the thing that you currently cannot accept at all. There's so much internal rejection, internal resistance. Please don't latch to that. Please don't latch to that. Well, I'm sorry to break your heart. It's going to boom, latch to it. That is like waving a red rag to a ball. Okay, saying don't latch to that, that's what it's going to do. So instead of saying that, you think, well, before you know it, it's going to latch to it anyway. You think, okay, just telling myself it's just OCD and can cut it. How could I accept myself if that was real? What can I learn from that situation? Because OCD is going to latch to different things all at once. You know, I had times where I had about 5, 6, 7 triggers all going on at once, right? Health OCD, POCD, harm OCD, existential, sensory motor, all kinds of things going on. Cheating, all kinds of things going on, right? Because OCD was always looking to grip and nestle just out of reach of certainty. So I was uncertain, I couldn't quite work it out. And if I just said to myself in that moment, it's just OCD, move on, it would laugh at me. It would run rings around me, make a complete mockery of me. Because all the ones it had latched to felt real. I remember when existential first latched, it was like, well, hang on a minute, you can't prove this, Sam. So OCD or not, this is a new thing. This is a new thing that you've discovered. This is a new concept that you've discovered, and you never get over it, right? So you can see how it's very crafty and how it's very subtle and how it's very sneaky and how it moves around, okay? Yet again, it's just OCD, doesn't work. I had that written down in my notes. I really wish I kept those notes. I removed them a long time ago. But I had in capital letters on my phone, it's just OCD. Move on, Sam. You've done nothing wrong. It's just a thought. It's just OCD. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Hoping one day that was going to sink in. Hoping one day that was going to be the end to all my problems. I finally woke up. I finally realised it was just OCD. Hooray. So finally got insight. Yes, see what's going on now. It's just my OCD. It doesn't cut it at all. Okay? And it then very, very rapidly becomes a reassurance. It becomes a mantra. It becomes a statement. It becomes what you tell yourself over and over again. It's just OCD. It's just OCD. It's just OCD. It's just OCD. Isn't gonna get under it. Getting under it requires a deeper level of acceptance, unconditional acceptance, consistent and persistent belief work, and making peace with worst case scenario. That even if the worst case was real, how you could accept yourself, be at peace with yourself, adapt to the worst case scenario, look at the pros and cons, things you could still be grateful for, how you could transform and benefit your life from the worst case scenario, and so on. Because with that kind of mindset, you're then putting the key to your mental health back in your hands, okay? Rather than saying, oh my God, if that happens, that's the worst thing ever, I won't be able to cope. Oh my God, if that happens, it's totally catastrophic, totally terrible, awful. Because with OCD and the mental health disorder that it's going to do, it's going to latch to that and go, right, no, this is your situation, your worst fear is true, leaving you feel completely stuck in a guilt cycle, an anxiety cycle, just going round and round and round, because you just turn around and say, well, it's just OCD. It's going to say, no, this one isn't OCD, this one's real, this actually happened, you thought this on purpose, you're going to be stuck like this forever. Doesn't matter if it's OCD, Sam, you're going to be stuck like this forever, doesn't matter, okay? So this is why deeper level of acceptance is absolutely vital when it comes to getting under OCD and recovering from OCD. Very important point. If you need help breaking this down, applying unconditional acceptance, if you keep saying it's just my OCD, it's just OCD thought, let's move on, and it isn't cutting it, please get in touch at phil@ocdrecovery.com. Email phil@ocdrecovery.com. You get booked in one of the coaches here, and we can start applying that deep level of acceptance so OCD starts backing down, and that latching power, that oomph that it latches with, starts to eventually fade. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like, and we'll speak again. Bye-bye.